Hello friends! I'm often asked about my workspace, so I figured it was time to finally share a proper studio tour. Come take a peek inside my tiny backyard office and home studio. I've been working from home since 2005, and initially I worked out of one of the rooms in our house, but once my husband also started working from home, we decided we needed a dedicated workspace. Now our house is fairly small, but we had an entire section of our backyard that wasn't being used, so we decided to build a backyard studio. We went with a company called Studio Shed, which makes customizable prefab buildings, and we talked to their sales rep about what we needed, and I used their online design feature to choose our layout and our finishes. We went with the DIY option, so a few weeks after we did everything online, the entire building was delivered to us on a truck, ready for us to put together. If you've ever assembled IKEA furniture, it was basically that, but on steroids. So with blueprints and instructions in hand and the Studio Shed team a phone call away, my husband hired a couple handymen to help out, and they got the walls up in about a week. We hired the pros to help with the big tasks like electrical, drywall, HVAC, but things like painting and laying the floors, we did all that ourselves. We've been in this space for 5 years now, and all the hard work has been completely worth it. Although it's small, it's bright and airy with big windows, so it gets lots of light and views of the plants and birds and squirrels outside. It's also really nice to have an at-home workspace that's still separate from the house. And honestly, you can't beat the commute. It literally takes me 20 seconds to walk over here from the house, unless I spend a few minutes walking around in the garden checking on the plants. Now it is a small space. The building is 20 feet long by 10 feet wide, so 200 square feet. And since I share it with my husband, technically my side is only about 100 square feet, which is tiny, but I make it work. Right when you walk in, I've got this flat file storage here, which is just two of the IKEA Alex drawer units stacked on top of each other. I've got all kinds of random things in here, like samples from projects I've worked on. I've got office supplies in this drawer. I've got some confetti in here, which I consider an office supply. Whenever I send packages, I like to toss a little confetti in the box just for fun. Then I've got some sketchbooks in here, most of which are empty, and more sketchbooks, drawing pads, and paper down here. On top of that drawer unit, I've got a few things displayed. This lettering piece was a project I did for one of my Skillshare classes, and I just kept it here. I've got a couple vintage floral illustration books, which were very thoughtful gifts from friends. This print is by a local artist here in Atlanta named Shay Anthony. And I got this limited edition ampersand sculpture from David Soto, also known as AKA Dope on Instagram. He's a talented lettering artist. And this tiny drawer unit is actually a vintage parts and tools organizer that I found on Etsy many years ago. I spruced it up with a little spray paint, and now I keep things like X-Acto blades, batteries, and other small little random things. Right next to the drawer unit is my work table where I film all my classes and tutorials. It's just a basic IKEA tabletop on adjustable legs, which I have set to standing height. And I actually had to cut a few inches off the edge of the table to make it fit perfectly in this narrow space. And let me show you my filming setup since I always get questions about it. I have a semi-permanent rig set up so that I can just turn on my camera and start filming at any time. Since floor space is so limited, I installed this Manfrotto auto pole across the entire width of the studio. The auto pole is removable, which is why I say it's semi-permanent, but honestly, I rarely ever take it down. Attached to the pole, I have a couple adjustable arms which hold my gear. So my camera is attached to this one so that I can shoot from top down. And then I've got my mic attached to another adjustable arm, which I can position where I need it and then fold it up and out of the way when I'm done. When I'm filming, I also connect my camera to an external monitor so that I can see exactly what's happening on screen while I'm recording. I could also attach lights to the auto pull, but I don't because we get such great light in this space, and as you can see, the table is right by a window, so I only use natural light when I'm filming. Below the work table is a rolling cart with a few supplies like my X-Acto knives, various scissors and shears. I've got my Posca paint pens in here, a couple water jars for when I paint, and a few other supplies. On the other two shelves of the cart, I've got some more gear for filming, like a mini tripod, different attachments for my big tripod, etc. Then over here in this corner next to the work table, I've got a little gallery wall. Most of these are my own artwork, which I swap out occasionally, but this one is by Natasha Cunningham, who is a Jamaican digital collage artist. And aside for just loving the piece, I really like how it kind of mirrors the lines of the string art piece that's next to it. Then here in the corner, I have all my markers and color pencils, a couple plants, and some more books. Right next to that is this compact little shelf where I keep a few more art supplies like my Tombow brush pens. There are a few paintbrushes here, pencils, sketchbooks. And on the shelf below that is my ever-growing collection of notebooks. And then I have just a couple samples on the bottom shelf. Now let's move on to my desk. As you know, I'm a digital artist, so my iPad is always nearby. When I'm drawing at my desk, I use this little stand to set my iPad on so that I'm not totally hunched over when I'm drawing. I have another one of these little drawer units here. Above it is where I store my Tombow twin tone pens in all kinds of colors. And inside the drawers, let's see, I've got binder clips, Post-it flags, Pantone color chips. Yeah, just random odds and ends. I'm trying to do better about drinking more water, so I keep a water bottle on my desk. This one is actually from my Casetify collection. I've got more pens and pencils in this vintage milk glass vase. And I usually drop just random things in this pretty little tray. I have another mic here on my desk, which I use to record voiceovers, like what you're listening to right now. Then over here, I've got a couple cards sent to me by some of my very sweet patrons. This sticker is of another collage by Natasha Cunningham, and I just stuck it on this salt cellar where I keep a pair of earbuds. Then I've got my highlighters here, a bunch of fine liner pens, chargers, and other knickknacks in these trays. At the end of my desk is this bookshelf which stores all kinds of things. Mostly samples from projects I've worked on, like these greeting cards. And I put everything in these white containers to try to help keep them looking organized. Then down here, I've got more office supplies like pencils, notepads, etc. These are actually leftover inventory from my old stationery line and online store that I used to have several years ago. I used to keep lots of plants on the surface of the shelf, but I mostly leave it cleared so that I can have more space to spread out when I'm working. And I moved some of the plants back into the house, and some, like these spider plants, I just keep outside the doors of the office because they seem much happier out there in the summertime anyway. On this wall, I have another bookshelf. This is where I keep all my reference books, inspirational books. I've got several books from some of my creative friends. And on the shelf below, there's a small printer and more project samples. I did the lettering on this tumbler, which is currently sold at Target. I've got a few of the puzzles that I've illustrated, book covers that I've illustrated, and several notebooks I've designed. And then on the bottom shelf is where I tuck away some filming gear that I don't use that often. Next to the bookshelf is another rolling cart, and again, this has things that I don't use that often, like my washi tape, random painted rock. I've got some stamps here, envelopes, and a few note cards. Back here is where I keep expired calendar pages from my big Stendig wall calendar. Since the sheets are so big, I sometimes use the old pages as gift wrap or sometimes as filler paper in boxes if I'm mailing a package. Above that, I've got this little message board and a beautiful print by Morgan Harper Nichols that says, "I'm grateful for small signs of progress," which I thought was really fitting for an artist. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this tour. If you have any questions about anything, just let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.